Hello, welcome to episode 157 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. Anvil, the Story of Anvil. Oh boy, this is a rock documentary, and I have a bit of a history with this film actually. Not long after it came out, I picked it up on DVD in steelbook format. I probably still have it somewhere in my cupboard of doom back in the UK. And I took it into work one night. I used to work night shifts where you could either take 2 half-an-hour breaks or 1 hour-long break. And I took to bringing my laptop into work and spending an hour watching, a film or most of a film. And this one was only an hour and 17 minutes, so I thought, great, I'll watch most of this and then finish it when I get home. And I got 20 minutes into Anvil, the Story of Anvil, and I turned it off and did something else for my break. It wasn't bad, I wasn't turned off by it, but I just wasn't hooked by it, for whatever reason, and I never returned to it. And so when I saw that it was in the book, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, I thought, really? That film? The one that didn't really even grab me that much? And it just appeared on Netflix, so I thought, alright, let's return to this and see what the fuss is all about, and if I was wrong, to turn it off after 20 minutes. And boy, was I wrong. And I again, sometimes it's just a situation where that you put yourself in to watch a film where it's just not conducive to having a good time or letting the film, wash over you. You can't absorb everything if you're not in the right frame of mind, and in some cases, the right location. And I was so ready for this film today, and I didn't even know it. It just happened, and I love those little kind of accidental things where you'll just watch something just on such a whim and it ends up just being the perfect film for you to watch at that point in time. Anvil follows the story of this aging rock band called Anvil, this heavy metal band from the 1980s who were really gaining traction just before the bigger heavy metal bands like Metallica and Slayer were coming in. I don't know too much about my history on metal and stuff. I'm a big Metallica fan, that's about it, but they were around during that time, and the film opens with this. It shows you them in their prime in the early 80s performing alongside Bon Jovi and the Scorpions, and but then they never really kept the momentum going. It didn't really translate, and they never became as big as it felt like they should be. And you have peers such as Lemmy and Lars from Metallica and people from all these acclaimed bands saying that those guys were really something. And they influenced us, and they were the originals in a way, but they never made it to the big time. And so you follow these guys in the early 50s trying to still make it to the big time. They never stopped. They kept going for 20 years. They just kept playing and playing and playing. And you open the film by seeing them in present day, which I think was filmed around 2005, 2006. Just going about their day-to-day lives and then getting to play on the weekends and kind of be Anvil again, but to a very small audience. And you get to see kind of their core fans, like the real hardcore fans who seem quite eccentric to say the least, who kind of followed them all this time, but it just feels like they never got what they deserved. And you hear from their family, you hear from their friends, but mostly you hear from those guys. And I guess to me, I feel like it's about the two figureheads of the band, which are Lips, who's the lead singer and guitarist, and Robb Reiner, actually, the drummer, I should say. The drum. No, he's the drums of the band. He's the drummer. And then you have the bassist and the other guitarist, and they kind of came into the band later on. So they're not really focal points of the documentary, or in fact even the band. I know that they've changed bassists quite a few times as well. It's really about these two guys who started the band and who have been lifelong friends, Robb and Lips. And the film is I guess, about reaching for fame, having a dream, and having a creative outlet, and also really about this friendship between these two guys, which gets tested throughout the film, and indeed has probably been tested over the entire course of their career in this band. And it was such a touching relationship to watch unfold, and the whole film, in fact, is just totally hooked me in. I don't know what it was about that previous time I watched it. This time I was so invested in these two guys and this band. and in everything. They go on this tour to Europe, and you know, Lips is so full of enthusiasm. He's like, this is going to be great, we're going to get paid to do these shows, and you know, a record label might come along and see us and see that we're still great, and this could be the beginning of new things for us. He's so optimistic, and you see how on a dime he can kind of switch to a very emotional and negative person as well. But not in an ugly way, you know. I was really endeared by the character, the guy of Lips. I guess that Lips is his band character, you know, kind of the extension of his musical personality. But just the guy himself, you know, I just was really endeared by him and his relationship with Robb, which goes through, again, a lot of testy moments in the film. And you see this tour, which is supposed to be this kind of, this is the moment where we finally get, you know, the recognition, and it could be the start of something bigger that we've been working towards for 20 plus years, and it just doesn't go very well. And it's crazy how much this film feels like this is Spinal Tap. And again, and I was kind of chuckling earlier because the drummer's name is Robb Reiner, even down to the ending of the film, which mirrors the ending of This Is Spinal Tap a little bit too closely for my liking. Well, not even for my liking, but it almost seems like it's completely staged because it's so fitting to the ending of This Is Spinal Tap. I know it isn't, but it's so eerie. And there's even a shot in the film when they're mixing their new album where the producer kind of turns the volume knob up to 11. So I feel like the director kind of was seeing some of the similarities, or it just is one of those things where rock producers have that 11 switch just as this homage to This Is Spinal Tap. As a documentary, I hate to say it, but a lot of it isn't really filmed that well. There are these moments where the camera's a bit shaky, it doesn't really capture things that well, but it's not really a knock because it really shows you this film, I think. This is a great example of telling a story. Sometimes you don't need these fancy drone shots or these incredible kind of, you know, deep focus and, like, you know, just like artistic shots in a documentary to make it better than it is. You just need a great story, and this is a great story to the point where some of the footage that isn't as, you know, tight or crisp as other documentaries have, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's about the story, it's about these guys, and seeing what happens to them on this very focused part of their career and lives, where they're really trying to make something of this kind of combined effort that they've put into this band for so long to get something more out of it. They record this new album, they think it's the best thing they've ever done, and they're trying to push it, they're trying to sell it, they're going out to LA, I'm assuming that's the city they went to kind of show it to all the record companies, and just no one's latching onto it, and it's heartbreaking and it's uplifting at the same time. And more than just the story that it tells of these guys, it's also, to me, a really inspiring film, a really inspiring story for people who are creative. We get to see what Robb does in his spare time, his paintings, and I thought his paintings were awesome. I really liked them, and I liked that we saw that side of him. We saw this as a very creative person, you know, and the frustrations of being a creative person and not getting, you know, maybe what you want out of it, and dreaming of the big success. And, you know, I like how Lips talks a lot about how, you know, he doesn't even need the money for success, you know, just the fact that, like, after the disastrous tour, he's like, yeah, the tour went terribly, but, you know, it's better than, a tour going terribly is better than us not going on tour, you know, like, we did that, you know, and he's able to, maybe after he's gotten quite annoyed about it or emotional, he's able to see the positives in things and see the merit of just creating, and that's something I'm really passionate about. And so, you know, they want their dream to be realized, I think, just because their families have kind of, maybe not falling by the wayside, but, you know, their families could probably benefit more if they were more successful, and, you know, they've been kind of sitting in the wings, kind of waiting for them to hit the big time and stuff. And I like, again, how you hear from the wives of these two guys. Just very heartwarming story, you know, from start to finish. I thought this was a fantastic documentary. And some of my favourite rock documentaries are things like Metallica, Some Kind of Monster, Rush, Beyond the Lighted Stage. And with the Rush one, it's purely retrospective, kind of Talking Heads documentary, whereas the Metallica one is a lot more in the present and tells this very specific story of, you know, a certain period of the band Metallica. So they're two very different kind of films, but they both have great stories. And this is one that I think has maybe even a better story than those, because it's more of an underdog story. You know, Metallica, yeah, they're going through this rough period and it's really tense, and you want to see them kind of make their comeback. But I mean, they're Metallica. They've had incredible success anyway. If they had stopped making music around the time of Some Kind of Monster, they still would have gone down as this legendary band. You know, it wasn't like they really needed to make that comeback, but you still rooted for them anyway. And with Rush, you know, hugely successful band. Anvil, it's just like, I knew nothing about them, but within an hour and 15 minutes I was all in on this story. I felt like I knew these guys, and I was so rooting for them to get some sliver of hope at the end of it. And I'm not ashamed to say I teared up a couple of times during the film. I just thought it was fantastic. I really loved it. And then I read up what happened to Anvil after the film, and I was very kind of again heartwarmed to read that the film became such a success, and it gave them a new lease of life on their career, and they got to play bigger shows and kind of experience that resurgence a bit. You know, obviously they weren't going to shoot to the top of anything, but they got to kind of get a second wind, and I thought that was so nice to hear. And they're still going today, which is nice to hear too. So Anvil, The Story of Anvil, incredible documentary, really, really, really great film. Top marks from me. Like, and is it a film you should see before you die? Absolutely. And it's got nothing to do with metal music. It's just a great story, and it's real, you know. And there's these really funny moments as well, just really offbeat, kind of like the timing of everything is just so funny, and the way that it's edited, fantastic editing. There's a great score as well that really adds to the film in a unevasive way. Like, it doesn't feel like it's there to manipulate your emotions. It kind of just slides in there very naturally, and just kind of adds to some of those situations and gives them a bit more punch. I think the score was really, really good, and the editing again, both from the way it presents a story and the way that it would kind of leave those pregnant pauses for some of the more funnier moments, particularly the last shot of the film, which I thought was really funny. But just generally, and the charisma of Lips, I think, really carries the film, and his chipper, upbeat outlook on life, you know, I just found so endearing. I'm repeating myself at this point, so I'll leave it there. If you've seen the film, let me know what you think about it. It's shot right to the top of my favourite documentaries list. I couldn't see it not being in my top 10 at the very least. I love documentaries, and this one was just, I mean, I don't know what I was missing, you know, however long it was ago that I first tried to watch this, but this was an excellent film. And again, not very long, but it just tells this great story. And yeah, definitely repeating myself at this point. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.